Tom, I guess we'll start with the column that I'm just glancing at right now, written by Lawrence Martin in today's Globe and Mail, suggesting that it's time, in his opinion, for Justin Trudeau to walk away. What do you think?
I know that Aaron, is a message that is being very serenely, politely, and respectfully transmitted to Justin Trudeau by the most senior people in the Liberal Party. For people who don't know Lawrence Martin, he writes in the Globe and Mail, as you just mentioned. He's been at it for a long time. He's written many books about Canada, knows the Liberal Party inside out, and his advice is essentially, look, this is your third mandate. Look at what you've accomplished on the social side. You've got everything from a new dental plan for kids to a pan-Canadian system of child care. You've done a lot of things that you had always wanted to do in terms of programs for Canadians. But at some point, you've got to look at the possibility that you're not going to be given another mandate, and the party should be given a chance to find a new leader. And he's suggesting that Trudeau would resign in the fall rather than have the election that I continually predict in the fall. And he's not alone. I've talked to people at the most senior and most experienced level of the federal Liberal Party. They've got nothing but respect for what Justin Trudeau has done, but they also believe that it is time for new blood to come in.
You know, it's interesting. Historically, I understand from having read this, no one's done this. He goes back, I guess, to Mackenzie King back in the 1940s. But, Tom, if an election were held, let's say in the fall, and assuming, there was not a big scandal of some kind between now and then, you don't think the Liberals would win under Justin Trudeau?
Well, that's not what the polls are telling us. The polls are telling us that Trudeau would be beaten by Poilievre, but polls are polls. I think that Justin Trudeau would have a very good chance of beating Pierre Poilievre, and obviously, given his personal demeanor and his hubris, Trudeau's convinced he wants this battle against his polar opposite in Pierre Poilievre. Mm-hmm. I find Poilievre a very divisive figure. The word smarmy comes to mind. I sat across from him, Aaron, for many years in the House of Commons. He was always performing and put on a good show for the strongest right-wingers in his caucus, but I do think that it would be hard for him to rally enough Canadians, especially in places like the Greater Toronto area. But he's moving in and taking the Liberals apart bit by bit on things like law and order issues. He's going after the CBC without hesitation. He's talking his themes. He doesn't allow himself to be pushed back, but he's become much more professional. He's learning how to take advice from some of the good people around him. He's only going to get stronger, and he's only going to be able to reach out to wider and wider than he can now. If the election were held today, I think it would be a very tough thing for Trudeau. If it's held in 6 or 8 months, I think it might start tipping in favor of Poilievre. And, of course, scandals can occur on both sides, not necessarily the Liberal side. But Justin Trudeau is going to be hamstrung with the investigation into the Chinese government interference in Canada, in Canadian elections. And into the Trudeau Foundation, which is something else we're about to talk about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to ask one last question. I got the impression, maybe even said this a while ago at one of those town hall meetings he was at, that Justin Trudeau is itching for a fight and wants to beat the PM, wants to run again.
For sure he does.
So You're hearing all this internally, and it seems to me, I don't know, do you listen to your party, or are you so sort of focused on what you believe will be a win that it doesn't matter what people around you are saying?
Well, but Lawrence Martin, like I do, he's been a pretty big fan of Justin Trudeau. He hasn't had a lot of bad things to say about him over the years. But in this one, he's saying, is he going to listen to Justin Trudeau and perform like Justin Trudeau and say, sorry, the only thing that matters is me? Or is he going to think about the party? So that's an open question.
Okay.
Put by somebody who's anybody, but there are people who write in the papers who go after Trudeau every day, so you have to dismiss what they say. But Lawrence Martin, very nuanced and, in my view, very open and mostly favorable to Trudeau, giving him that sort of advice now.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he won't be able, like you've said so many times, Tom, he will not be able to resist the fight against Poilievre.
That's the key thing. He just sees this as such an epic battle.
Yeah.
Which he thinks he can win, obviously. So
he's got. You might have noticed he's got quite a lot of self-confidence. Yes.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Just a little bit. So let's talk about the Trudeau Foundation. Aaron and I, when we were talking about this earlier today, we were wondering if this is of great interest to those of us in the media, but the general public is not paying that much attention. What do you think?
This one has popped right off the pages, and this one is being picked up right across the country. A lot of the reporting came out of the Globe and Mail, even though it's based in Montreal, and lo and behold, this week, the press started getting some really good scoops on this. And by the way, that's what changes. I mean, I do consider David Johnston a friend. And yesterday, defending him when he was in Winnipeg, questions came up about the Trudeau Foundation and the role of David Johnston and so forth. And Justin Trudeau used an interesting word. He said he is unimpeachable. And you know what? I would apply the same word to David Johnston. But David Johnston's bumping up against a rule of natural justice that has a funny Latin name. It's called the Nemo Iudex rule, which means that you can't be a judge in any case in which you were personally involved. So to the extent that his mandate is to look at the entire system and all of the events of China, which will now obviously have to include a look at what the Chinese government did in trying to purchase influence, curry favor with Trudeau by giving money to the Pierre Trudeau Foundation, that has to be looked at. Well, just prior to being named the special rapporteur who was supposed to give advice to Trudeau on whether or not we do need a commission of inquiry, David Johnston had a key role for many years at the Trudeau Foundation. So that's a new fact in the file. And I still do consider David Johnston an outstanding Canadian and a friend, but I don't see any possible way for him to do anything but step down. But you know what? My advice to him would be, as you're stepping down, do the obvious and the right thing, because David Johnston's always done the right thing in my view. Do the right thing and say, by the way, it is obvious, even based on what I've done over the past few weeks, that Canadians deserve a full commission of inquiry into what happened and what the government knew, when they knew it, and why, if indeed that's the case, they did nothing.
And then walk away.
And then walk away, because he can't continue. It's just such a basic rule. And by the way, Johnston's a very smart lawyer. He knows all this stuff.
Okay. Listen, we are going to replay an interview we did with Eric Duhem, leader of the Conservative Party, just after the 5:30 news. Tom, this is all about a petition that he put up online that he wants to take to the National Assembly, which is basically that, warning people. And by the way, he's had 20,000 people sign this petition already, saying that, you know what, this idea of drag queens reading to kids in school, protect the children, you should be scared of all this. And I'm curious what your take on all this was. We talked about this yesterday, but between then and now.
Well, I'll give you one other fact that people who don't know the internal workings of political parties should know, because we can talk till the cows come home about why Eric Duhem is the person who's doing this. And we did a lot of that yesterday. But I'll give you a new element here that's worth considering, because people don't necessarily know why political parties do such, disturbingly divisive things sometimes. It's because they're building up their database. And so if he's already got 20,000 names, he's got 20,000 email addresses. So the next time he hits send for a request for fundraising, guess what? A lot of those people are going to send him money. This is, by the way, where the Conservatives are head and shoulders above all of the other political parties. The Conservatives are brilliant at this stuff federally. So I'm just guessing, but it's an informed guess. I'm guessing that Duhem is getting some very good advice from good people in the federal Conservative Party saying, find a very divisive file. Doesn't matter. Even if it's only 5% of the voting public that agrees with you, they'll give you their names because they'll sign your petition, and then you can hit them up for some money later on.
But Tom, that's so transparent.
Wow.
I know. You're disappointed to find out that politicians do things to get money for their party. I'm sorry to pop that balloon.
I'm also disappointed that, like I've said before, that a man in his position, an openly gay man who should be an ally and an advocate, is choosing to take this stance that is so, rather than being inclusive, makes it feel...
It just simply adds to the cynicism of people who look at that sort of maneuver.
Yeah, you do whatever's good for you politically, and the hell with what it is.
And you hear the interview coming up at 5:35, but there was nothing that he said there that made me feel that this makes any sense whatsoever.
No, and he's just going through the motions, and the other thing is too, of course, we're talking about him for the second day in a row, so for him it's a success on that level.
Mission accomplished.
Tom Mulcair, back tomorrow morning with Andrew Carter at 7:40. Thank you, Tom.